You can all join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right. Good evening, everybody. Looks like since it's just us, I'm going to have to scoot a little closer so I can actually see the monitor here. I won't sit that close, but give me a minute here to get situated. That might be too close. We'll find out. I could probably move the computer too. Always adjusting. Let's see here. Give me a minute. Buddhist teachings on impermanence. Everything changes always. So here we are, changing once again and doing the best we can. Now that I've done that and moved the computer, slide back. Giving you all time to settle in, get comfortable. Okay. Yeah, that probably won't work either, but we will do our best. I think I need a little table, actually. Give me a minute here while you're all settling in. See if this works better. Yeah, a little bit. I think this will do for now until we figure it out for next week. Probably just screwed up the video too. I did, but we will manage. All right, is that better? How's everybody doing? I may end up just holding this eventually. Oh yeah, that works. So good evening, everybody. Welcome to Intro to Buddhism, where we are constantly exploring change and impermanence. I said Saturday morning, and I'll just kind of address this briefly just because I know it's on everybody's mind or a lot of people's minds. But 2 days ago at this time, we were open and the temple is now closed. So I'm sitting here, thus no mask, in a huge empty temple. Still feels good sitting here, although it's always nicer with people. But Saturday morning, as the replies came in through, we have the RSVP system for Saturday, and I received probably 4 or 5 emails that morning from people that said something to the effect of just letting you know I need to cancel. I've potentially been exposed to COVID, or I'm not feeling well, something like that. There were 4 or 5 of those. And so it was people that were reaching out and telling us that they were going to be cautious and smart and stay home, which we really appreciated. So that was Saturday morning, the 30 minutes, an hour prior to class. And then after that, we talked about it. Sunday came around and we realized that it would just be safer, smarter, wiser, and more compassionate to shut down for right now a week. After the holidays and travel and people all over the place, the numbers with COVID here in San Diego are quite extreme and drastically increasing. So we just don't feel comfortable bringing together 20, 30, 40 people here every day, or whatever our schedule was doing. We don't like being closed any more than you do. It creates tremendous amount of additional work and effort, which is not a complaint, just an awareness that being closed doesn't make things easier. It makes things more difficult, more challenging to recreate schedules and Zoom links and all these types of things. But with all that being said, our number one priority always is that we keep people safe. And we felt ultimately that the best way to keep people safe would be just to close the doors for right now. So that's where we're at. As you know, practice goes with us everywhere. If you're isolated in a room, you practice there with what you have. So nothing changes when we close our eyes and we sit in meditation. When we open our eyes and we engage in the world, whether we're outside or not, there we are. So that's an opportunity to practice. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll start with a meditation practice. It is really nice to see all of you. And by Saturday, I'll have this situated better so I can actually see who's joined us and respond to you all like I did during the 16 months we were closed. So I'll do that again tonight. Amy, good evening. Marisa, I think that's Linda and Brian. Oh yeah, it is Brian and Linda. Linda again, Ashley, Samir, it's awful late for you on the East Coast. Thanks for staying up. Mario, Lisa, Denise, and Eddie. Marcel, great to see you all. And yes, Happy New Year to everybody. So Now that our millions of followers are here, we'll go ahead and start with a meditation practice. There's a couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. All right? You'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And the practice of meditation is learning to get quiet and still within all the chaos. So posture, if you want a cushion, often helps slide to the front third. Pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten, shoulders are relaxed. Hands are on the knees or in the lap, however you're sitting in a chair or a couch or whatever you're on. Trying to keep yourself upright, shoulders relaxed. I'll guide us as we begin, and we will settle into a little bit of silence. Most important with this practice, do not expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed, if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually, we settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. We start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought. Return to breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. letting go of expectations, letting go of judgment from the practice, just sitting, breathing. Keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound, each thought, each physical sensation, yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. No one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. Most important with the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. And ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's not from the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in, where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. This practice is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control everything around us, and we work on changing our mind and our reaction to the world around us, life gets simpler. This practice is not easy. It's not necessarily fun. And it's not an escape. It's direct perception into this present moment and being with things as they are. For me, it's what they call the beginner's mind, of just sitting. Awareness of this moment. Letting go of the judgments and the expectations. Letting go of the critiques, the likes and dislikes. And just sitting. You know, it's funny because I'm sitting here and the camera's over there, so I can't turn it around and show you, but most of you have been here, so you know. And I'm looking out at this empty temple. And all I'm thinking is, wow, it's really beautiful to sit here. Because that's what I'm sitting in right now. Now, if I start to think, well, we just closed and nobody's here and they're all stuck at home and all those types of things, then you start to create these judgments and views on all of that. And of course, it's always nice sitting with everybody. But if I'm just present in this moment and I'm just being with sitting, this is beautiful. Not comparing it, not critiquing it, not judging it. Bringing up the recognition of what it's like to sit here now. And the recognition of what it's like to sit when this hall is filled. Both beautiful. But what am I in right now? Just an empty temple. And I feel quite grateful to be here. So, with that being said, I'll pause, and as always, I really prefer to use the rest of our brief time together to respond to your questions around meditation, Buddhist practice, anything that you're sitting with. And I'll use the rest of the time again to respond to that. Trying to figure out how to see this, and there we go. Typically, for those who don't know, we went 16 months closed, so everything was virtual, and the setup was one way, and just responding to everyone here on YouTube. And then once we reopened 5-6 months ago on a limited schedule, really the attention was with everybody that was here, and we also streamed it. But now that we're back to nobody here, I can look very closely at all of you on the computer. So feel free to type in your questions. You'll find a chat box somewhere there on your screen. Like I said, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything that you're sitting with. One thing I do want to say as you're formulating all your questions, just before I forget, because I didn't mention it earlier, but the overwhelming response of whether it was reply to the newsletter that went out or social media posts or text messages or whatever it was, um, just a tremendous amount of support from this community, this sangha, in our decision to shut it down for a little bit. And we make decisions that, as you know, in life, anytime you're involved in any sort of situation, dynamic, relationship, organization, whatever it might be, anything that involves anyone other than yourself, um, when you make decisions, they're not always loved. And sometimes you make decisions and people are happy, and sometimes they're unhappy. And from a leadership standpoint, if you ever expect everybody to be happy with you or like you, then you're in the wrong role. Was a military general years ago was giving a speech, and something he said was, "It's leadership, not likership." And so, when you are in positions to lead anything, um, you can't be concerned about being liked by people. Decisions you make are always going to make some people uncomfortable and unhappy. Like I said, the response from this community overwhelmingly was incredibly supportive, and um, I think really saw the our effort and intention of having wisdom and compassion for the community and the people who show up here. Um, and for the one or two that were not so happy and expressed that, then we are sorry that us closing doesn't um, align with your views or your judgments, and that's okay too. So our focus always on the bigger picture is all the people that come here, not to mention those of us who host all of you here. We can't be foolish enough to ignore ourselves as well, and so it's a unique situation to be in, but again, here we are. So again, I really just want to thank everybody for the support. It's been really beautiful. All right, so questions. Sherry, if you have physical pain, injury when meditating, is it better to turn towards the pain and investigate it, or turn away from it and focus on the breath? Um, Both. uh, or it depends. Let me just see how you worded that again. A little bit different again. Now I'm going back to questions that I'm reading. Um, is it better to turn towards the pain and investigate it, or turn away from it and focus on the breath? So, in general, one thing I learned years ago was that, give me 1 second here. Uh, one teaching I received years ago about sitting with physical pain, I found very beneficial. And that was that when you focus on it, it often tends to intensify it. It's the most present thing there is because it's what you're feeling in this moment. But when you focus on it, often it becomes stronger. So there's the recognition of the physical pain. Breath in, breath out, physical pain, back to breath. Breath in, breath out, physical pain, back to breath. For me, that's always been the practice, is to just recognize it and then bring your attention back to breath. Now, another way, which isn't necessarily, well, it could be, if your leg hurts just from sitting, the way I'm reading this is you may be talking about more chronic pain or something like that. But if if your leg hurts when you're sitting, if you simply kick your leg out and move your leg, and that takes away the discomfort or pain, there's nothing wrong with that. right? Simply move the leg and then return to stillness. What you don't want to do is sit there for 5 minutes wondering if you should or shouldn't move your leg, or will it help or make you a good or bad meditator. If you have an itch, simply scratch your arm and then come back to stillness, right? Uh, what I think you want to try to avoid, and again, without speaking dialogue back and forth, when you talk about investigate it, uh, that could mean many things. But personally, with the practice and the Zen practice, it's not about investigating the pain. Um, when you mean investigate, okay, so then what do you mean? Why is it there? Where did it come from? How long is it going to stay? Like, that's a lot of thinking. That's a lot of questions. That's a lot of things you're trying to answer. If the practice of meditation is just learning to be present and be with things as they are, then investigating it or understanding it is not really going to do you much good. Just be with it. If it's there, it's there. If it's not there, it's not there. But I personally wouldn't suggest necessarily investigating it unless I'm kind of missing the intention behind investigate. So I would just sit with it. And if you can move slightly to adjust or help the pain feel better, then great. And then, of course, always coming back to the breath. So hopefully that's helpful, Sherry. If not, or if I missed completely what you're asking, feel free to comment again here. Marisa, oh, thank you. We appreciate it. You made the most beneficial decision. We always try. Daniel, I'm grateful to have these online classes. I see the Guardian statues. You guys don't miss anything. I see the Guardian statues are replaced with lotuses again. Are you just trying something new, or are there some significance? Maybe the lotus statues have always been guardians, and maybe the guardians have always been lotuses. So, yeah. There you go. Joe, hi, Jeff. Always curious to know what you silently say to yourself when bowing or before starting to sit. Much thanks for you and what you do. I appreciate it. Thanks, Joe. What do you say silently to yourself when bowing or before starting to sit? So if you're talking about when I come up and I do the offering and I ask you all to join palms and repeat after me, say, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. At that moment, that's all that I'm reciting. Again, each setup, each shrine, each situation has always been different. But for here, I recite that, ask you all to repeat it. Then I hit the bell, and then I do my bows after each strike of the bell. At that moment, when I do that, I'm not reciting anything. I'm just bowing, and that's all. There are things that I say that I do here every day, every time I come in here. That's not necessarily what I do before I leave the class with you all. But when I approach the shrine, I join palms. And let me see, I'll kind of turn and face it. I will always do a bow. I'm off to the side so you can't see me. But I do a bow. And then I say to myself, a bit of a kind of prayer of respect for the statues, to pay homage and pay respect to Namo Guanxin Pusa, which is the Guan Yin Bodhisattva up top, Namo Sicha Moni Fo, which is the Siddhartha statue, Namo Dizan Wang Pusa, which is the Kusiti statue, Namo Vairo Chana, which is the statue, little one in the middle, Namo Prashivali, that's this one here. So Guanxin Pusa, Sicha Moni Fo, Dizan Wang Pusa, Vairo Chana, Prashivali, and then going over there, Namo Pushen Pusa, the great Bodhisattva practice, Samantapadra, and then the one on this side is the Namo Wenchu Pusa, which is the Bodhisattva wisdom. And then I come down here and I say Namo Ganesha to the three Ganesh statues, and then I Namo Amitofo to Amitabha Buddha, and then I turn and I say to the medicine Buddha, Namo Yao Shifo. So that's my way of doing it in the Bodhisattvas or the Buddhas that I recite their name in Mandarin, Chinese. That's how I learned it. Some of them I kind of make up, like Vairochana, I know as Vairochana, so I say Namo, which is to pay homage to Vairochana. So Vairochana is not Mandarin, but I've kind of adapted my way of paying respects to each individual statue that has significance on the shrine. So that's a daily practice for me here every single time I walk in to the meditation hall. So hopefully that helps, Joe. If not, as always. And Daniel, I still like my answer earlier, but yes, things tend to move around. So, all right, Sherry. Yes, thanks. I meant that sometimes when I look at it, it changes. Yeah, again, and that, so I don't want to necessarily say anything is right or wrong or good or bad. If you can observe the pain and perceive it potentially differently, then yes, maybe the pain transforms or goes away. And so if that's beneficial for you and that works for you, then phenomenal. Then stick with that. So I would be hesitant and careful to think that there's a one way that is, right or wrong or better or worse than another. So I think my main point is I wouldn't spend, if you're sitting for 10 minutes, I wouldn't spend 9 minutes of it investigating or exploring the pain. So hope that's helpful. Let's see here. Brian, so thoughts on the fifth precept. So when you're looking at the precepts, the order I learned them in, or at least remember them in, is no lying, no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, and no use of intoxicants. So when you say the fifth precept, are you referring to use of intoxicants? Just to clarify that before I respond. Yes. So my thoughts on all the precepts are pretty much the same, and then I may say a few things about the fifth precept specifically. But for those who don't know, and I'll just kind of sum this up briefly, the Buddha taught the monks and the nuns and the disciples anywhere from 227 to 311 precepts. These were precepts that they followed. It's interesting because a lot of people come to Buddhism and, they don't want to like follow rules anymore. And they think that it's just this like laid back, relaxed, easy day spa type of thing. The Buddha was pretty strict, we freak out when somebody asks us to, wear a hat or something like that. Yet we're all into Buddhism. The Buddha had a lot of guidelines to follow, precepts. And it's what's called the Vinaya. You can just Google Vinaya. It's the code of conduct as taught by the Buddha. Again, 227 to 311 for the monks and nuns. And there were major precepts, minor precepts. The first 5 that were taught, and before I address them, I always like to look at the precepts as red lights. So when you're driving and you come to a red light, you don't have to stop. Most people choose to, but you don't have to. You can run the red light. If you run the red light, maybe you get pulled over, you get a ticket, maybe you crash and hurt somebody or yourself. Maybe you get away with it and get there quicker. A lot of things that can happen and go good or bad when you run a red light. But chances are running the red lights, leads to not great things. And so the precepts to me are really the same way. They're especially for lay people who look at the first 5 precepts of to refrain very specifically. I often say no, but it's literally translated closest to refrain from lying, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and or intoxicants, anything that alters the state of mind. Very often, this fifth one very directly is translated or talked about as no drugs, no alcohol. But again, it's anything that alters the state of mind. If you look at that, there are things that the Buddhist said, don't eat garlic, for example. It did stuff to you. So there's a lot of little things on there that we might think, well, that's silly. But keep in mind, especially with the first 5, that these were there to help the community live and get along in a peaceful, harmonious manner. And I don't know about you, but anytime I lie, kill, steal, cause sexual misconduct, or use intoxicants, I typically do things that harm myself or harm others. So to refrain from all of them is, I think, very wise. Very specifically with the intoxicants, this is really hard to do, without dialogue and debate. But I have heard over the last 18 years, probably every justification around intoxicants. It's legal, it's a plant, it's, medicinal. And I'm not saying any of that isn't true. But the real question around intoxicants is, why do you do it? Can you stop it? And what would happen if you did? When I introduce this to college kids, to people who've been smoking pot for 50 years, this isn't about marijuana, for example, being right or wrong or good or bad. It's about recognizing, why do you do it? Could you stop? And what happens if you do stop? So anytime that we use intoxicants, it's critical to explore why you're using them. Because very often, and I've worked in recovery communities for 20 years, we've hosted a recovery Sangha here with Dharma Bums for the last 11, 12 years. Very often, the use of intoxicants and the addiction is tied to much deeper things happening, things that we're escaping from, running away from. If you can get through your day and enjoy your day, then you might not need to drink 3 glasses of wine at night, or, get high all the time. And that's coming from a kid who grew up drinking and smoking and was a stoner in high school and used to get high every day. So I'm not coming from a judgmental place where I'm looking down on people. I've done just about everything out there. So I've been there, done that. So my lens has come from someone who's been through it and looking at it as to why I did it: the anger, the depression, the escape. So usually pretty harmful for us and for others. You have a couple sips of beer, not the end of the world. You drink a 12-pack, you're probably not doing smart stuff. So I don't know if that addresses where you're coming from or what you're looking at, but hopefully that's helpful. Feel free to chime in. If not, Samir, myself, yeah, I mean, cell phone, absolutely. Again, it's a lot of the precepts, very specifically with intoxicants, the addiction, the craving. Again, that's kind of what I mean when you look at what's behind it, right? There's that constant, seemingly endless craving, addiction for instant gratification, right? Every time you post something, you want to see how many people liked it. Like, man, life was so much simpler without having to post all your stuff on social media and then see who likes it. And I'm guilty of it. I get it. I'm in it. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. And here we are, like, posting all this little stuff. Oh, did they like it? Did they not like it? Did they love it? Did they give it a smiley face or a sad face? Like, every feed, every tweet, every post, every news thing, these things are absolutely intoxicating, and a huge addiction. So, all right. Yes, thank you. Great answer. Thanks, Brian. Anything else before we close? If not, I'll close on that. Time sure does fly when you're having fun in a big empty temple. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll close on that. We'll join palms and we'll do a transfer of merit. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained be transferred to the more than 4 million lives that have been lost during this pandemic, and to their family and friends who continue to suffer to this day. May they all be at peace. May we all be at peace and free from suffering. All right, so a few quick announcements before you all log off and start looking at something else on your phone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma bum. We opened up this temple 15 years ago to bring Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers, we're not looking for students. We're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. So thanks for showing up. Every night we have different classes going on, almost every night. And as I alluded to at the beginning, right now, everything is all up in the air. We're completely closed, so everything is virtual. I believe that all of the website meetup is current now with all the class schedules and how to get online and all that stuff. So every night we have something going on. Unfortunately, it's just virtual right now. Recovery Sangha Tuesday night is back to virtual as well. Sunday morning will also be virtual. So as I have more information, you all know that I will share it in all the different channels and look to see how many likes we get from sharing it. But I just don't know anything else other than we're closed right now. So we will continue to keep the safety and health of this community and those who walk through these doors because they expect that from us and they rely on us as leaders of this space to do our best to keep them safe. So we will always respond to those who really understand the level of compassion that we're trying to have for this Sangha, this community. So thank you for joining us. I wish you well, be safe, and we'll see you soon.